Hi, this is Sipidit from the Natural Language Processing Lab and the Mathis group for Computational Neuroscience and AI at EPFL. I'm presenting our work, PICLe, Pseudo-Annotations for In-Context Learning in Low-Resource Named Entity Detection. In-Context Learning, or ICL, enables large language models to perform tasks using a few demonstrations only, which facilitates task adaptation when labeled examples are hard to obtain, as in biomedical and clinical domains, among many others. However, ICL is sensitive to the choice of demonstrations, and it remains unclear which demonstration attributes enable in-context generalization. Prior works have explored which demonstration characteristics lead to successful task adaptation in ICL, but only focused on scalar output tasks with a limited predefined label space such as classification. As a result, demonstration characteristics that optimize performance remain unclear for tasks that require structured and open-ended predictions such as named entity detection. In this work, we conduct a perturbation study of in-context demonstrations for low-resource named entity detection. To this end, we study the importance of input-output semantic correspondences and the effectiveness of partially correct annotations. Then, we propose a framework for in-context learning with noisy pseudo-annotated demonstrations. Our framework improves over zero-shot named entity detection by an average of 10.7 percentage points over 5 biomedical datasets. Here, I present our experiments over 5 biomedical datasets for chemical, gene, and disease extraction on the instruction-tuned version of the 7 billion parameter Mistral model. First, we analyze the importance of the context label correspondence of in-context demonstrations by introducing noise through various perturbations that preserve different aspects of this mapping. We consider 6 corruption schemes. Consider the following example as input. This pretreatment had no effect on the inhibition of the GABAT or the elevation of the brain GABAT levels produced by VIG. The chemical entities mentioned in this text are GABA, GABA, and VIG. Our random in-domain label perturbation replaces all these entities with other chemical entities that are not in the text. The swapped in-domain label perturbation swaps the list of entities of this sample with the ones of another sample in the dataset. The random out-of-domain label replaces the ground truth entities with random English words, and random out-of-domain labels from text replaces them with non-chemical words from the text itself. We also consider corrupting the text by replacing the mentions of chemical entities in the text with random English words, and also shuffling the order of the words in the text. The labels remain unchanged in these two schemes. Finally, we consider corrupting both the text and the labels in the samples. We find that demonstrations with corrupted labels only considerably harm in-context learning, but demonstrations with corrupted text and label still provide learning signals to the model. We conclude that demonstrations must retain a degree of semantic correspondence between the input text and the extracted entities, but the model's ability to adapt in context is robust to noise in the demonstrations. In our second perturbation study, we perturb ground truth labels to create partially correct annotations. Given a perturbation factor, deletion randomly removes entities from the ground truth annotation. Substitution replaces them with another chemical that is not in the text. Deletion and substitution first removes random entities from the ground truth annotation, then substitutes some of the remaining ones with other chemicals that are not in the text. Finally, addition and substitution substitutes some of the entities with other chemicals that are not in the text and also adds chemical entities to the ground truth annotation. We plot the F1 score of the in-context learning performance with perturbed demonstrations against the F1 score of the perturbed demonstrations compared to the ground truth annotations. Higher demonstration F1 score indicates a lower perturbation factor, and the size of the dots indicate the average number of entities in their demonstrations. We observed that perturbations that preserve or increase the total number of entities in the demonstrations compared to the ground truth annotation lead to better performance. Grounded on our findings, we proposed PICLe, a framework for in-context named entity detection with pseudo-annotated demonstrations. We start with a set of unlabeled samples and prompt the model in a zero-shot pass to extract entities in each sample. Then we improve the quality of the annotations by prompting the model to verify each predicted entity, a process called self-verification, and we filter those with wrong entity types. We use k-means to group the pseudo-annotated samples into k-clusters. Each cluster is used as an individual pool of demonstrations for the downstream named entity detection at inference stage. We prompt the model k times for each test sample, each time choosing the demonstrations from one cluster of pseudo-annotated samples. We call this sampling method the specialized k-means. Finally, for each entity in the k-lists of predictions, we perform a self-verification step to verify if the extracted entities have the correct entity type. We compare PICLe's performance against the standard zero-shot and in-context learning with demonstrations sampled from 10, 50, and 100 human annotated samples. On average, over 5 biomedical datasets with no human annotation, PICLe outperforms zero-shot by 10.7 percentage points and competes with in-context learning with 100 human annotations with a 4.3 percentage point higher performance. We perform ablations to better understand the importance of each component of PICLe. We study the impact of self-verification in the pseudo-annotation stage, compare specialized k-means with existing random and cluster-based demonstration sampling methods, including k-means and KNN, and evaluate the impact of self-verification at inference stage. Our experiments illustrate the importance of each PICLe component. To summarize, we find that while a semantic mapping between the demonstration context and label is essential, even weak semantic mappings can provide sufficient signals for in-context task transfer. Moreover, our analysis revealed that in-context learning is surprisingly resilient to partially correct annotations, provided that the demonstration label includes a large enough number of entities. Finally, we propose a method for named entity detection with pseudo-annotated examples, which, with no human annotation, outperforms a standard zero-shot by 10.7 percentage points and competes with in-context learning with 100 human annotations by 7.3 percentage point higher performance. For more details about PICLe and our analysis with more models, please check out our paper and code. Thank you.